Brother Brett, how are we doing, man?
My question was, and I just discovered this over the weekend, is I did an Ancestry DNA test, and the result that came back kind of revealed a 21-year-old secret that I hadn't at all suspected. That the person that I thought was my father, my biological father, was not my biological father. And I confronted my mom with this news, and it was a very difficult conversation, and knowing that I'd kind of been lied to for 21 years.
Hey, you weren't kind of lied to, brother. You were absolutely lied to.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I just kind of I found out that it's something that other people have a lot more people than I thought had gone through. But the first thing I did when I thought my life was spiraling out of control is I Googled to see if this was something that anybody had called about on your show, and I didn't see it. So I figured I'd call, that maybe in you helping me, there might be other people out there that could also be helped by any advice that you can give.
Man, brother, you've got a great heart, and I appreciate your trust, and appreciate you reaching out, man. I'm optimistic too that this call will help a whole bunch of people who are dealing with all kinds of secrets that they didn't know about. So is your dad still alive?
My dad actually passed away last spring. He had a degenerative brain condition.
I'm so sorry.
And I gave the eulogy at his funeral. But we had a tough relationship because he hadn't been around since basically when I was in middle school or so. But I'd kind of this year, there's a playbook for dealing with loss, I think, and I thought I was kind of at peace. Bad things happen to people, and I got to say my goodbyes to him. It was so I was kind of at peace with it. And then that was in April, and then I found out just a few days ago that he wasn't my biological father after all.
So tell me about this conversation with your mom. How did it go? What did she have to say about it?
So our first conversation, I think, because it was so shocking to her that I found out, the first conversation wasn't as good as the second, and the second wasn't as good as the third. But the first conversation, I just said, "Hey, Mom, I just kind of said, I think there's a secret you need to tell me, and I just want to know the truth." And her first reaction in shock was, "No, you can't stop, we can't talk about this. I don't want you to ruin our family." And then I said, "Mom,
you've already done that for us. Thank you." Yeah.
I said, "Mom, you can't possibly be the one who's angry in this situation." And then she kind of took a deep breath, and the conversation was better after that point. But the initial shock, it was kind of not great.
Yeah. So was this just a one-time fling? Did the person you thought was your dad, and I'm going to call him your dad because that's the role he played in your life. Yeah. Did he know about it?
To my knowledge, he didn't have any clue about it.
Wow.
And
so is it just a secret? Did your mom have an affair with somebody, or?
It was from what I found out, it was an affair with a longtime family friend that I know pretty well.
Okay. All right. So here's a couple of things to think through moving forward. Number one, everything is going to feel unmoored to you. You're going to feel completely untethered. Okay. And I want you to rest in that. You're not normal. You're not crazy. You're not broken. All right. You should feel like at the end of a flag waving in the wind, okay? That's a normal feeling. Mm-hmm. None of this at all, none of this disrespects, discounts, or loses the father that you knew, right? That guy acted as your dad. It looks like he thought he was your dad. He performed the roles of a dad, And
I'm still going to call him my dad when I talk about him,
absolutely.
To be honest.
Anybody can father a child. Very few people actually can step in and be dads, right? This guy did. And so he didn't, quote unquote, father you, but he was your dad, right? So honor that memory and love that. At some point, you're going to have to come to a resolution and decide what you want to do about your relationship with your mom. And what I will tell you is what she did is unconscionable. It's not right. And I don't want to be in the business of judging what sort of social pressures there were 25. How old are you?
I'm only 21.
Okay, 21 years ago. Should she have told you? Absolutely, man. Should this have come to light and y'all have these conversations? No question about that. But I don't want to go back 2 decades or more and have revisionist history on what was in her heart and her mind and how safe she was and all that stuff, right? What I would rather do is spend time living in the now and then moving forward. And if you choose to not talk to your mom, you're welcome to do that. If this is a relationship deal breaker for you, obviously it's a massive fracture in trust, right? What I'm going to push you to do, though, is to forgive your mom, okay? Not forgiving somebody only poisons you. It doesn't affect them at all. It might have a psychological, like a balm for them, might feel good, but you're the one that's going to carry around this hurt and this pain. And so at some point, I want you to work towards some sort of forgiveness with your mom. Doesn't mean you have to connect with her anymore. Doesn't mean you have to be chums and buddies anymore. I hope y'all can get there. I hope you'll forgive her and go down the road. But that's not for today. For today is you forgive her so that you're not carrying those bricks around and you can still celebrate your dad, right?
And after our first conversation, our conversations were a lot more productive. And I do think I'm coming around, and she was remorseful. And from my understanding is that her not telling me, and I do believe her, I think it was misguided, but she thought she was protecting me from information that would hurt me. But I can promise anyone out there, if they're keeping a secret, it hurts a whole lot more to be lied to than anything that of this magnitude. It hurts a lot more to be lied to. So I just implore anybody out there who's keeping a secret to.
That's right.
If they're making that calculation, please just give your family the truth.
Secrets destroy families from the inside out. That's for sure. So the question I want to know that everyone listening is going to want to know: are you going to give your dad a call? Your father a call?
We've already talked once.
Okay.
And it's weird because I know other people in the situation. It's a far off distant person in whatever town that someone met 20 years ago. And for me, it's not. It's somebody I actually know in the community.
So here's, if it hasn't already, I want you to expect this. I want you to expect the question to rise up in the base of your throat that will rattle in your heart and chest for probably the rest of your life. Which is, why didn't you come find me, Father? Right? How did you just sit there on the sidelines for 2 decades? Mm-hmm. And that's going to come with all sorts of grieving. That's going to come with anger. It's going to come with frustration and pain. You're going to get pissed off. You're going to get mad. And he's going to give you some excuse. And at the end of the day, you go running for your kid, right? I don't just passively let somebody else raise my child down the street from me. Does that, you know what I mean? And so you're gonna. Yeah,
I agree.
You're gonna wrestle with that. You. Okay.
The one thing it doesn't make it a whole lot better at all. I'll give you that. And it's kind of one of those hindsight is 20/20 things where, because the person I knew as my father was mentally ill, and so my financial situation wasn't great growing up for our family, and this person did provide assistance, but that's not enough. And
no. I mean, churches and charity and the government gives us money. Our dads show up. Our dads give us the most precious thing on planet Earth that they can never get back once they spend it, and that's their time. That's their touch. their eye contact, right? And so, yeah, I mean, we can high-five him for kicking in some money. He had to by law. You're his kid, right? But he let somebody else raise you. And that's hard for me to even hear on your behalf. I can't even imagine what that's going to be like for you as you unpack that. Again, the easy thing for you to do is going to be to go to war with both of them and to say, why didn't you, why didn't you, why didn't you? And you're right to do that. That's fair. But what I'm going to tell you is war only ends up in piles of bodies. It's not going to solve that hole in your heart. It's not going to give you any sort of answer that's going to feel good. And what you need to do is, moving forward, is decide what level of relationship you want to have. Do you want to get to know folks? You're in a unique situation where your dad passed away. And I can imagine a scenario where this is even more complicated and frustrating if you've got both of these men still alive and your dad finds out about this. That he was lied to for 20 years, right? But the reality is he's passed away. We're not ever going to know what his response would have been or anything like that. What we do know is your mom seems to have loved you, and man, she made I like your word, she made a bad calculation. And she kept a secret that poisoned her, that poisoned your father, poisoned your home, and of course poisoned you. And then you got a guy down the street from you that is your father, and he chose to let somebody else raise you. Man, that's hard. So, yeah, for anybody listening, secrets destroy families. Man, they just do. They just do, and they create doubt and suspicion and fear and lack of trust in the hearts and minds of children. Don't do that to your kids. Brett, I'm sorry that happened to you, man. You don't deserve that happened to you. But all you can do is be a person of character and integrity moving forward. All you can do is choose to forgive and not carry around the sins and bricks of your parents and not pass those along to your kids. All you can do is choose to continue to do the next right thing. And that starts with forgiveness, and that starts with walking a little lighter load. I will wish the best moving forward for the three of you. I hope y'all come together and have some sort of reconciliation and relationship. Man, we'll be thinking about you. You're doing it right. You're starting slow, and you're starting with conversations. So good for you, man. You are handling this probably more maturely than I would have at 21, that's for sure. Yeah, I appreciate your call, and I appreciate you caring for other people in the country who find out. I got a good friend who just found out I may have a brother or a half-brother that I didn't know existed. That happens. And what do you do when you go back in time and revisit why your parents made the conversations and the decisions they did? Why did they choose to do that? Why don't you tell me? It was a different time 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago. It doesn't make it right, just makes it different. And so the most we can do is be graceful and move on. So thanks again for that call, Brett.